As we come on the air tonight, team coverage of Hurricane Dorian. Good evening and thanks for watching Wgxa News at 10. I'm Aaron Leedy.
And I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Cox.
Dorian strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane today, raising the possibility it could become a Category 3 hurricane when it likely hits the U.S. Sunday or Monday.
Yeah, the storm has already lashed St. Thomas. We start with Rick Leventhal tonight. He's in San Juan with the latest.
2 years after Hurricane Maria devastated much of Puerto Rico, Hurricane Dorian is testing the island's preparedness.
Because of the experience we had with Maria, we are taking measures so that the same thing does not happen again, which took us by surprise and the damage was more serious and extreme.
Some 23,000 power customers in Puerto Rico lost electricity from a rainstorm on Wednesday, and the U.S. Virgin Islands was completely in the dark after Dorian passed through. A curfew now in effect there until 6 a.m. Thursday. Forecasters now say the storm should stay mostly over water, sparing residents here the worst, likely avoiding the once near certain 1-2 punch of strong winds and heavy rainfall. Dorian is now predicted to strike the U.S. mainland around Labor Day, possibly as a dangerous Category 3 hurricane.
Don't wait. You know, we procrastinate by human nature, but when it comes to hurricanes and storm preparation, you can't really procrastinate.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has already declared a state of emergency, and grocery store shelves are quickly emptying out.
I just bought 3 cases of water, 36 bottles of Gatorade.
Other residents are focused on keeping the lights on, picking up generators in case the power goes.
I've been planning on it for 2 years, and then with Dorian, I figured now it's better safe than sorry.
Dorian's future is still hard to track, but Florida seems squarely in the storm's sights. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, Rick Leventhal, Fox News.
Thanks to Rick for that report. And Jeff, your team's been tracking Dorian all week as it now moves away from Puerto Rico. So where's it headed next?
Right now, open water, and that's bad news. It's bath water, and so we're expecting a strengthening storm. Check out the satellite shot here, Aaron. San Juan was pretty much spared. Most of Puerto Rico was spared, which is good news for them. St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands, hit pretty hard today. Winds are at 80, gusting to 100. We'll have the new update coming up around 10:45, 10:50 from the National Hurricane Center. But based on what we know now, here's the forecast cone. Major hurricane by Saturday, winds at 115, makes landfall Sunday into Monday along the east coast of Florida, but we're advising anyone from Key West to Savannah, Georgia to be on alert because there's still a lot of unknowns with this storm, something we are tracking closely, and we'll have much more analysis coming up in just a bit. Now, something else that's taking off social media, everyone posting reaction from the Virgin Islands today. We check out our tag board here, several videos of the wind and heavy rain in Puerto Rico as Dorian moved through. We'll go to our next slide. The video here you're seeing next is out of St. Thomas, the wind and rain whipping around. Certainly a rough go of it there today. We also have more video from the Virgin Islands showing Dorian's strength. Check this out from Tortola, the British Virgin Islands. People having to wade through flood waters there. And that's the big thing with these tropical systems is you end up with too much rain in a short amount of time. And with the mountainous terrain there, you end up with mudslides and flash flooding. Certainly a rough go of it today in the Virgin Islands. Back here in the Skywatch Weather Center, we will have much more coming up on Dorian a little later in this broadcast. First, though, a quick update on our weather in Middle Georgia. Beautiful day. Quiet tonight in downtown Macon. Yesterday, this time, it was flooding in Macon. Today, not so much, which is a good thing. We need a chance to dry out. Temperatures across the region are mild, mid to upper 70s for most, a few low 80s out there. Cooler nights are coming. In fact, a sneak peek of the extended forecast. Tomorrow night, I'm forecasting the low 60s. That'll feel real nice across the region. School day forecast for your Thursday, upper 60s at the bus stop, low 80s by lunchtime, just shy of 90 for the ride home. I do think we'll eventually peak in the low 90s tomorrow afternoon, but plenty of sunshine. Looks like a really, really nice day. Later in the half hour, all eyes on Dorian. We'll spend the majority of our time on that storm with the latest forecast track and the latest on our local threat. That plus your 10-day forecast just minutes from now. Aaron?
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp also closely monitoring Hurricane Dorian. As Jeff mentioned, the path of Dorian can change rapidly. Governor Kemp says he, along with emergency management agencies in the state, will be ready.
Currently, projections are very uncertain, but we're committed to the safety of Georgia families across our state. And as we move into the Labor Day weekend, we wanted to give the public an update on the state's ongoing storm preparations. We have been working with federal emergency and management officials, state and local governments, private sector businesses, and also our neighboring states. In these situations, it's incredibly difficult to forecast where this storm will go and how severe the effects may be. Over the next 24 hours, we hope to have a clearer picture of Dorian's trajectory.
Our Skywatch weather team will continue to monitor any changes in Dorian's path on air and online at Wgxa.tv. Downtown Macon experienced flash flooding again last night because of heavy rainfall, and it's something we brought you live on the air as it was happening right here during this newscast. WGXA's Jayla Whitfield is live downtown tonight with a reaction from business owners about how they deal with the ongoing issue and what the city is planning to do to stop it. Jayla.
Aaron, community members and business owners tell me every time it rains in downtown Macon, they have to worry about it flooding. Now, they say the problem are these storm drains they're getting clogged up.
All I could think about is like, wow, please don't let what happened in July happen again.
Anissa Jones lives in downtown Macon, and her apartment was a victim of the flooding last month.
Rain came down so fast in a short period of time, and because of that, we had a lot of water that flowed up underneath our door.
2 to 3 inches of water came through her front door.
Created a situation where we had to kind of like really move fast to save our belongings.
Not only was her home at risk, but her vehicle was too.
Our cars were underwater during that time, and it was just a blessing that it did not get to the engine.
I spoke with Chris Floor with the county, and he says they're working to fix the problem. In a statement given to WGXA, reading in part, after reports during yesterday's heavy rains, Public Works is making sure the drains are not clogged. Even when the rain came down yesterday, Jones was on edge.
The water was really high, and then that's a lot of water for it to start to come up underneath your door.
Jones said so far she's dodged a bullet because it could have been much worse. Now, Chris Floor also tells me that they are staying prepared. They make sure they have the equipment and resources just in case they're needed for this weekend. But for now, live in Macon, Jayla Whitfield.
Jayla, thanks so much. Insurance and medical lobbyists at odds with Congress over medical bills. If you have medical bill debt, listen up. The mounting pressure to stop a nationwide ban next. Tonight at 10:09, a critical battle is going on in Congress. Lobbyists for insurance companies, hospitals, and doctors groups are fighting to influence lawmakers working on surprise medical billing legislation. Our sister station in San Antonio, Texas, explains.
Texas is one of 25 states that have passed laws to stop surprise medical billing. But 2/3 of us aren't protected because our insurance policies are regulated by the federal government. Congress is working on a nationwide ban, but it's facing a lot of pressure from the insurance and medical lobbies. Fortunately, all of the proposals being considered by Congress would protect patients from receiving those bills.
I think most of the parties are in agreement that the right thing to do is to actually take the patient out of this process.
John Hawkins is with the Texas Hospital Association.
Surprise billing is becoming a bigger and bigger problem for families.
Jamie Dudensing is with the Texas Association of Health Plans. While they are on opposing sides in this debate, both of their organizations helped craft the surprise bill ban in Texas. They say what's holding up the national ban in Congress is disagreement over how to settle surprise bills. Insurance companies want to set a benchmark payment for out-of-network procedures, which would be based on what they're already paying their network providers in the area.
It's a market-based price that's occurring in the system that would be fair to all parties. 2, it's an easy and cheap way to do this.
Hospitals and doctors want an arbitration system like the one approved in Texas, where the medical provider and the insurance company submit what they think is fair payment and a third-party arbitrator decides.
We would rather that be a negotiation between the two parties that can take into account the unique circumstances of each of the parties as opposed to the government setting a reference-based price.
Insurance companies argue arbitration would create another layer of bureaucracy and legal costs without controlling prices.
You're allowing the outrageous inflated prices that have been occurring because of surprise billing to be built into the system, which means patients may not pay for it in a surprise bill, but they're going to end up paying for it in their health insurance premium.
Medical providers claim setting benchmark prices could force some hospitals out of business and limit access to doctors.
We want to solve this problem, but if you do something in a way that undermines the free market, the private market, that will have long-term implications which will be bad for the healthcare system.
I'm News 4 troubleshooter Jay Avila.
In health news tonight, there's an alarming new trend that more people are dying from heart-related problems when just a decade ago, death rates were actually going down. Heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and high blood pressure are conditions that doctors say are often preventable. Yet in recent years, more Americans have been dying from these medical conditions. A new study is taking a closer look at secondhand vapor. Researchers report more middle and high school students are being exposed to secondhand vapor from e-cigarettes in public places. About 1 in 3 students say they breathed secondhand aerosol from e-cigarettes last year. The year before that, it was approximately 1 in 4 students reporting the same. Scientists still don't know the negative health effects of increasing exposure to secondhand e-cigarette vapor. Exclusive new video tonight following the original case of Jeffrey Epstein. Straight ahead, what new details are now being shown. Happening now, one of the suspects wanted in connection to a shooting at the Burger King on East Oglethorpe Boulevard in Albany has turned himself in. Albany police are still searching for James Green Jr. and Jacarius Gatlin in connection to that shooting, though. If you have any information, you're asked to call 436-TIPS. Continuing coverage tonight as the field of Democrats looking to replace President Trump has slimmed down. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is dropping out of the 2020 race for the White House. In a tweet, Gillibrand praised her team but said, quote, "I think it's important to know how you can best serve," end quote. The New York Democrat failed to qualify for the third primary debate taking place next month. She didn't meet the donor and polling thresholds outlined by the Democratic National Committee. Developing tonight, Senator Johnny Isakson of Georgia announcing he's retiring at the end of the year as he struggles with Parkinson's disease. He released a statement today saying his health is taking a toll on his family and his staff. Isakson's retirement means Georgia will have 2 Senate seats up for grabs in the 2020 election. Isakson added, quote, "In my 40 years in elected office, I have always put my constituents and my state of Georgia first. With the mounting health challenges I am facing, I have concluded that I will not be able to do the job over the long term in the manner the citizens of Georgia deserve." And following Isakson's resignation, Representative Austin Scott, who represents Georgia's 8th congressional district, released a statement saying Johnny Isakson is a giant among men, and it has been an honor to work alongside him for the good people of Georgia. Also, Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina releasing a statement saying Johnny's legacy of effectiveness for the people of Georgia and the United States will be long-lasting and well-remembered. Newly obtained police video from the original case against now deceased finance tycoon Jeffrey Epstein are revealing some shocking accusations tonight. Reporter Chuck Weber shows us the troubling interviews.
We've seen reports of the allegations against now deceased mega millionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Through police evidence from the original Epstein case, we're now hearing directly from those involved.
It was something in high school. Everybody was like trying to make money.
A young woman speaking with a town of Palm Beach police detective.
Half of the school knows about it.
Half of the school know about it?
Plucked from her high school in Palm Beach County, she said she met Jeffrey Epstein when she was 17. A friend, she said, drove her to Epstein's Palm Beach estate where she was to give him a massage.
Do you recall anything weird when you were going up the stairs?
The pictures.
Pictures of what?
Naked people.
At any point, did he ask you to remove your clothes?
Yeah.
The young woman said she refused on her first visit, but still earned $200. The second trip?
He offered me more money just to take my shirt off.
She said on yet a later visit she did remove her bra. She said Epstein touched her chest and rear end over underwear. She said she made $300 for these massages.
Every girl that meets Jeffrey starts off with giving him a massage.
Another young woman we hear from was 19 when she spoke with detectives about her alleged role bringing other teen girls to massage Epstein.
basically, if you take off your clothes, you're going to make more. If you let him do things to you, you're going to make more.
She said although she got naked to give Epstein a massage, she wouldn't let him touch her.
So after that, he's like, you know what? He's like, listen, I'll pay you $200 for every girl that you bring to me. He's like, I don't want you to massage me anymore. Just bring girls to me.
And she did, she told police. Near the end of the interview, investigators confronted her.
At this point, you've clearly implicated yourself in a crime, okay? You're taking girls to somebody's house for the purpose of prostitution. More importantly, and more significantly, one of those girls was 14 at the time.
Now that woman there ended up cooperating with police and avoided criminal charges. Recently, there's been a push to hold at least certain Epstein enablers accountable, and the investigations continue. In West Palm Beach, Florida, I'm Chuck Weber reporting.
We are tracking Dorian closely. 10:19, the current time. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. The good news is weather across middle and southwest Georgia, very benign, very quiet. So it gives us a chance to focus our energy on Dorian. And I will tell you, the model trends continue to indicate that at some point, impacts are coming to Georgia. And so that's why we're so focused on the storm. Tonight, the nuts and bolts first. Category 1 hurricane. Winds are at 80, gusting to 100, moving northwest at 13 miles per hour. This is a storm that is not behaving nicely. It is not following the model trends. And so it's such a weatherman thing to say, but there's so much uncertainty with this forecast. And I'm very transparent in that message. There are things that we know and things that we don't know. And so we go over those with you tonight, and together we'll make a decision in the coming days about what's going to happen. Just 2 days ago, we were talking about a storm that would move over Hispaniola, and the terrain there would tear apart the storm. Obviously, that didn't happen. Yesterday, we talked about a storm that would go over Puerto Rico and really hamper their recovery efforts from Maria. That didn't really happen. So the storm is moving in a different direction than has been thought, and it has strengthened quicker than thought. So the forecast data has struggled the last couple of days, and we're certainly hoping for some improvement in the computer modeling over the next couple of days. But based on everything we know, here is the forecast cone of probability, and what we expect is a strengthening hurricane in the coming days, and by Saturday, a major hurricane, category 3 or higher, winds 115. This is a storm that will then continue west towards Florida and make a landfall sometime Sunday into Monday as a potentially major hurricane, category 3 strength. But let me caution you, the cone of probability is just that. And so I would encourage anywhere from Key West all the way to Savannah, Georgia, to be mindful of this storm because changes in the track are certainly possible. And then what happens beyond Monday is $1 million question. If you could answer that now, you'd be a very rich person. We've gone through all of the model data today, and I want to do that with you tonight to show you where the uncertainty comes from. And at this point, because of the uncertainty, we're encouraging anyone along the Gulf Coast to consider themselves in the caution zone. No need to panic, just monitor the storm closely. So here's the American model. We'll start with it first. Tonight, this is where you'll find Dorian near San Juan, Puerto Rico. Watch the swirl passing north of the Bahamas, then makes that westward turn, and we'll pause at Sunday with a landfall around Daytona Beach, Cape Canaveral. Beyond Sunday, the storm then goes inland through Jacksonville and boom, into south and middle Georgia by Tuesday and Wednesday. So the American model says impacts are coming to Georgia. Wind, rain, severe weather, and that would be early next week. Let's show you the European model, often termed the more accurate model, right? Similar story. Passes north of the Bahamas, then makes a hard left turn and goes to West Palm Beach Sunday. Crosses Florida Sunday night, moves back into the Gulf of Mexico by Tuesday, then explodes into a hurricane again and makes a landfall along the panhandle of Florida Thursday, then comes back into Georgia next weekend. So 2 dramatically different scenarios, but both bring impacts to Georgia. And so that's why we're stressing to you, monitor the situation closely, but a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables that we still need to figure out, so we are far from panic mode. At this point, I do think there's a chance for the region to see tropical storm force winds. 10% chance middle Georgia, 17% chance for southwest Georgia. These odds will likely go up as we get closer to storm time. Right now they are highest in Florida because that's where the highest confidence forecast is. That's what we know, folks. A lot of unknowns as well. We're certainly keeping an eye on it for you. Here are the 10-day forecasts. We'll start with middle Georgia, low 90s the next couple of days. We'll stay there into Sunday and even Monday. Cooler for the middle of next week. that factors in potential impacts from Dorian. Similar forecast for southwest Georgia. Great weather the next couple of days, a little stormy Saturday, and then a lot stormy by early next week. Again, potential impacts from Dorian. We'll have much more coming up after this break. Stick around.
Labor Day holiday is one of the busiest travel weekends of the year. Tonight, Karen Wgxa has a closer look at the most popular destinations and the 2 days you should avoid to beat the crowds.
It is considered the unofficial end of summer, and whether you're flying to your Labor Day destination or driving there, prepare for large crowds.
This year, over 1/3 of Americans will be traveling for that last long weekend in summer.
According to TripAdvisor, 61% of those traveling will be hitting the road, while 27% will be flying. Among the top trips this year, a beach getaway, a trip to the city, an escape to the lake, a mountain getaway, or a visit to a national park.
Most folks are looking to spend time outdoors, soak up the nice weather before we're back into the back-to-school routine.
Quick trips to the city were also popular. The survey found New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, Los Angeles, and Orlando were the top destinations. No matter how you're getting there, keep these 2 key dates in mind. TripAdvisor says Thursday, August 29th, and Tuesday, September 3rd will be the busiest days. But if you can't avoid them, pack your patience.
Try to leave a little bit earlier than you normally would, or even later in the day, to help avoid some of those busy trafficked roadways and long lines at the airport.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Karen Wgxa.
10:26, the current time. Still learning more about Dorian tonight, a storm that has battered the U.S. Virgin and British Virgin Islands today, somewhat sparing Puerto Rico, which is certainly good news for them. One thing we've documented tonight is that the forecast data has struggled in its accuracy stage, and so it's made forecasting this storm tough. And so it certainly leaves a wide range of possibilities several days from now as far as where the storm is going to track. One of the reasons why there's such a wide range of possibilities is, simply put, the models are all over the place. I can show you that tonight. Every line on this forecast map is a forecast model, trying to pick out the eventual path of Dorian. We're ignoring strength or type of storm, simply just the path. And notice at the beginning, they're very tight-knit. All the lines are on top of each other. But it's once you get 4 or 5 days from now that things start to spread out a bit. Notice on the other end here, anywhere from West Palm all the way up to Jacksonville is game on for possible landfall according to the forecast data. So that's why we are encouraging anyone along the southeast coast to monitor this storm closely. Now, something that we hope will help this data, the hurricane hunters are flying through the storm right now. You can see them making their zigzags. That's their current location just west of San Juan, Puerto Rico. The maximum wind they found so far tonight, 87 miles per hour. This is live flight data as it's happening. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and that new update should be coming up before the end of this hour. We'll have more news and weather coming up in our second half hour. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Current time 10:31. Thanks for watching. I'm Aaron Leedy.
And I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Cox.
Our Skywatch weather team tracking Hurricane Dorian's path through the Caribbean after pounding the U.S. and British Virgin Islands with rain and wind.
Yeah, Aaron, the storm is expected to strengthen over the next few days, leaving coastal states in the storm's path on edge. Nadia Romero is in Puerto Rico with more.
Damage and destruction. Hurricane Dorian is lashing the Caribbean with heavy rain and damaging winds. The storm's outer bands reached as far as eastern Puerto Rico, but the brunt of the storm's wrath fell on the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Downed trees blocked roads and streets filled with water as the storm churned over St. Thomas.
This storm is not to be trusted. It jumped all over the place and really started forming off of the west end of St. Thomas, and they really took a battering
President Trump approved an emergency declaration for Puerto Rico. Federal agencies will also provide critical aid to the U.S. territories and the Caribbean. But as Hurricane Dorian pushes north, back into the warm, open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, forecasters warn the storm could strengthen to a Category 3 hurricane. As it barrels towards the U.S. mainland through the weekend, the storm's unpredictable path has coastal states on edge. Officials in Florida and Georgia are bracing for the worst.
We're not exactly sure where this storm is going to go, but you need to start preparing now if you're in the coastal communities.
Florida's governor declared a state of emergency Wednesday, urging residents to prepare themselves ahead of a potential disaster and have 7 days worth of supplies ready, including food, water, and medicine. In Ponce, Puerto Rico, I'm Nadia Romero.
Governor Brian Kemp said it best. We're not exactly sure where that storm is going to go. A lot of different paths that this storm could go in the next few days.
And as a meteorologist, I try to be as transparent as I can. And in this particular case, there's a lot of solutions out there. And so I think unpredictable is not a bad choice of word right now. Something else that is kind of a bug in the ointment, based on the current forecast for Dorian, it could be considered a rare forecast, and here's why. What we've done on this map is plotted where Dorian is right now. Every red line represents a storm that has passed within 100 miles of Dorian's current location in the month of August since 1950. There's not a lot of them, but the one key takeaway is they all curve back out to sea. None of them go up and cross Florida. So if Dorian crosses Florida from its current position in the month of August, that'd be a pretty rare occurrence. And so I think that's making forecast matters even more difficult with this storm. So we're expecting the new forecast package coming up just before 11 o'clock tonight. So we should have that before the end of this newscast. The other story we're following, it's really nice in Georgia right now. And that's been something nice to deal with today. I want to show you the current numbers across the middle Georgia area. We've got most of us now in the 70s. In fact, a quick glance, I think Americus is the only spot in Milledgeville and Butler. So we've got 3 places that are in the low 80s right now. 80 in Butler, 81 Milledgeville, 82 Americus. Everyone has dropped into the 70s already. Sneak peek of the extended forecast for Middle Georgia. I'm going low 60s tomorrow night, so that'll feel really, really nice. School day forecast for the mid-state, upper 60s to start your Thursday, 82 by lunchtime, around 90 for the ride home with plenty of sunshine. For those of you in southwest Georgia, more in the way of some low 80s tonight, including 81 right now in Albany and Sylvester, also 81 in Ocilla. Looking to cool off, Fitzgerald and Cordell, you're at 76, down to 75 in Morgan. The school day forecast for southwest Georgia, a tick warmer than Middle Georgia, so low 70s at the bus stop, mid 80s by lunchtime, and certainly low 90s for the ride home, but plenty of sunshine for everyone. Stick around, we have got much more coming up on Dorian, including that updated package from the Hurricane Center. That's before the end of this half hour.
Right now, the Crisp County Sheriff's Office is preparing for the possibility of Dorian making its way to Georgia. Sheriff Billy Hancock says preparation efforts are important to have before the storm.
Now's the time we want to tell our citizens to make sure their plans are in place, make sure that the trees that were weakened by Hurricane Michael are down or out of the way in their yards and their property. Go ahead and make sure that you've got that emergency kit ready. You've got batteries and flashlights and your weather radios. And we encourage people in Crisp County, if they haven't signed up with Code Red, sign up with Code Red.
And the Code Red app is free to download. Well, a theater in Americus received a $50,000 grant to clean up after Hurricane Michael. The grant came from the Fox Theater in Atlanta. It was given to the Rylander Theater after its basement flooded and the storm damaged the roof of the building. The 100-year-old theater draws hundreds of people in for performances, and the damage put a strain on its budget. Employees say because of the grant, they have much more flexibility now.
The board allocated extra money in the grant cycle. So of course we were informed about that, and given that we took some damage, we decided to apply. Every little bit helps.
The Rylander Theater has big plans for the holiday season, including Broadway stars making a stop in Americus. Their renovations were completed at the beginning of this month. Downtown Macon experienced flash flooding again last night because of heavy rainfall, and it's something we brought you live on the air as it was happening right here during this newscast. Jayla Whitfield is live tonight in downtown Macon with a reaction from business owners about how they deal with the ongoing issue. Jayla.
Yeah, Aaron, community members and business owners tell me every time it rains, they have to worry about it flooding in downtown Macon. They tell me they think the problem is storm drains like this one clogging up. Now, today I spoke with Anessa Jones, and she tells me that her home was a victim of flooding in July, and also her car was a victim of flooding as well.
All I could think about is like, wow, please don't let what happened in July happen again, because we kind of dodged a bullet on that one. The water was really high, and then that's a lot of water for it to start to come up underneath your door.
Now, I actually spoke with Chris Floor with the county, and he says they're working to fix the problem. In a statement given to Wgxa, reading in part, after reports during yesterday's heavy rain, Public Works is making sure the drains are not clogged. Now, Chris Floor also tells me that they're preparing to make sure they have the resources and everything in place that is needed in case rain does come this weekend. Now, we're going to continue to update you guys on that, but for now, live in downtown Macon, Jayla Whitfield.
A top tourist attraction in the Southeast is celebrating 35 years in operation. Straight ahead, the big celebration you can be a part of this fall. New tonight, the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins is celebrating 35 years in operation. What started out with just a handful of aircraft in an open field in a single building has turned into one of the top tourist destinations in Georgia.
It's one of the largest Air Force museums in the Southeast, but 35 years ago, it was a humble beginning for the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins. Over the years, the museum has since grown to more than 90 aircraft and multiple buildings.
There are veterans that come, families of veterans that will come and enjoy the stories and the history and the photos and the memorabilia.
For veterans who visit, the museum brings back memories of what it was like in the service. After all, the grounds at the museum cover everything from early World War II up to present day.
It's wonderful to see them teach their family members and talk to about what they did in the service.
But you don't have to be a veteran or even be related to one to visit. The museum had a whopping 558,000 visitors last year and is on target for more than 650,000 this year.
It's a popular destination. A lot of people stop on the way down to go to Disney World. They'll stop here. It's a good break point.
Over the years, the museum has also expanded into educational outreach programs. Students can come on field trips, museum staff can go to the schools, and parents can even enroll their children in Saturday programs and on special holidays.
We can really learn so much about how history has guided us through the years and to help teach us about technology and workforce and careers of the future.
Nowadays, it takes a staff of around 60 people to keep the museum and its programs running. And as they reflect on the past 35 years, the sky's the limit to what the future holds.
We've come through so many wonderful years of wonderful exhibits, education programs, community events.
And the museum is open 9 to 5, 7 days a week, except for major holidays. It's free to get in and it's free to park. Now, tickets are on sale for a 35th anniversary celebration dinner coming up on November 9th. You can purchase tickets right now at shop.museumofaviation.org. Student loan debt is now a thing of the past for permanently disabled veterans. The decision came down from President Trump last week. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mahoney is no stranger to serving his country. He spent 27 years as a combat veteran. He says now many of his sisters and brothers in service will get the care they deserve.
I would say yes, because currently there are nearly 215,000 veterans that reside in the state of Georgia. And a large portion of those veterans are totally disabled. So if they do have student loan debt, yes, they will benefit dramatically.
Previously, veterans had to submit an application to the Secretary of Education with proof of their disabilities from the Department of Veterans Affairs. President Trump called this process overly complicated and difficult and prevented too many veterans from getting relief. Emergency officials in Savannah are preparing for Hurricane Dorian. Just ahead, what this means if you're headed to the coast this Labor Day weekend.
From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Allison Starling. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke out in Indiana about America's longest war as the U.S. prepares to downsize its military presence there.
Our mission there was to defeat Al-Qaeda, and that we shall do, and that we shall continue to do. We're proud of that record. But the truth is, America has never sought permanent military presence in Afghanistan, and all sides recognize that times move on.
The U.S. and Taliban are expected to come to an agreement to an end of fighting after 18 years. A new study looks at whether people with terrorism-related convictions will reoffend. This study focused on hundreds of cases starting after 9/11 and found rates of reoffense are low compared to other felonies. From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Allison Starling.
FBI and IRS agents raid the Michigan home of a labor union leader. Agents could be seen at the Canton Township residence of United Auto Workers President Gary Jones. The raid is apparently connected to a federal investigation into corruption in the auto industry. No word on how Jones is involved or what the FBI was looking for. In all, 6 locations were raided today. The UAW says it and Jones are cooperating with the government's investigation. A North Carolina college student is under arrest tonight, accused of planning a mass shooting. Police say Paul Stevers, a High Point University student who was found with 2 guns and ammunition in his dorm room. The school says it was told about Stevers' weapons from other students. He's being held on $2 million bond. Court documents show Stevers said that he'd been researching and watching videos related to mass shootings for months. The district attorney there said Stever moved from Boston to North Carolina because it's easier to get guns. Authorities in Georgia are releasing new information tonight about the arrest of a man suspected of attacking women for years. Police say Kenneth Bowen's victims are between the ages of 19 and 39 and lived within a 2-mile radius of his home. Clayton County Police credited those alleged victims for his arrest.
Without these victims coming forward and being brave enough to talk to us about what happened, we would not have caught this guy.
Bowen's facing several rape charges. Clayton County Police say he was actually a recruit with their department. They fired him before he finished the academy. Investigators say he's also the serial rapist they've been looking for since 2015. DNA evidence linked Bowen to at least 8 sexual assaults.
Current time 10:47. With all eyes on the tropics and Hurricane Dorian, emergency management officials across Georgia, including the coastal plain, have stepped up their operating conditions in monitoring the storm. Robert Catanese with our sister station in Savannah shows us how Chatham Emergency Management Agency is ramping up and what that means for everyone in the coastal empire.
As Hurricane Dorian pounded the U.S. Virgin Islands today, inside the SEMA Situation Room, emergency management officials are closely monitoring the storm.
Making sure that our partners, citizens, other stakeholders throughout the community, they understand what the potential threats are from Dorian that could have impact to Chatham County.
Hurricane Dorian is expected to strengthen as it tracks to the east coast, but Jones says it's still too early to tell what, if any, impact it will have on the coastal empire.
Encourage everybody to have a family plan, to have an emergency kit, to have an evacuation plan. So now's the time, if you haven't had a chance to put that together, now's the time to do that.
As SEMA officials are now in an advanced stage of readiness, or OPCON 4, Tybee Island city leaders are also closely eyeing Dorian.
Our mayor will be sending out an update twice a day here, ongoing through any event and beyond. Just so if you're here, if you're waiting for those updates, those will be the latest and greatest information that we have.
Beachgoers were soaking up the sun on Tybee today, and business owners tell us Hurricane Dorian, as of now, hasn't impacted the holiday weekend plans for vacationers.
We're not going to put any renter, customer, family at risk. So if we feel that it's getting close enough for us to take action, we'll do that, and we'll notify the renters accordingly.
And officials say the best plans are the ones you start making now.
And go ahead and put those in place. We still got plenty of time right now. Our focus right now is to make you aware and to make sure that you're ready to go if we have to move to the next operating condition.
Reporting in Savannah, Robert Catanese, Fox 28 News at 10.
I think it's important to watch the Georgia coast. While the storm may officially make landfall south of there, the onshore action is going to be incredible there. So places like Tybee and Jekyll and St. Simons, you're not getting in the beach this weekend and into next week along the Georgia coast. All right, we've got that new update just in from the National Hurricane Center. Dorian is stronger tonight in terms of wind. 85 now gusting to 105. The storm's a bit ragged tonight. It's not symmetrical at all, but the core of the wind is there, the blow up of thunderstorms there, and the hurricane hunters have found that stronger wind. In addition to the nuts and bolts update, we have that new forecast cone, and it's pretty similar to what we had at the top of the show. Category 3 hurricane by Saturday, winds at 115, making a landfall sometime Sunday into Monday as a Category 3. And again, we're talking somewhere around Cape Canaveral, Florida. And then the storm moves inland, and Orlando gets a Category 1 hurricane Monday with winds of 90 miles per hour. But once again, I stress, the cone of probability has that margin of error that goes from Key West basically to Savannah. So anywhere from Florida's coast all the way up Georgia's coast, you need to be aware of this storm and monitoring it closely. A subtle shift in the track north or south will dramatically change the impacts. Beyond the extension of the cone, what happens early next week? That's where we put the Gulf Coast in caution zone. No need to panic just yet, but those folks need to monitor the storm very closely. One thing we've documented tonight is this is a storm that hasn't behaved as we've expected, and the forecast model data continues to be all over the place. So tonight I want to walk you through the data we've analyzed and show you why we will have a lot of gray hair when it's all said and done. So tonight you'll find Dorian north of San Juan, Puerto Rico. On the American model, the GFS for my weather weenies out there, it shows the storm tracking north of the Bahamas, making that gradual left turn and making a landfall closer to Daytona Beach. That happens on Sunday. Then as we go into early next week, the storm continues inland, comes into Georgia, and that would be a tropical storm for South Georgia and Middle Georgia. That would mean wind, rain, and severe weather, and that would happen Tuesday into Wednesday. That's the American model. Let's switch over to the European model, often termed the more accurate model. We'll see. Similar story. It makes that turn towards the Bahamas, but then hooks left on the European model and ends up in West Palm, crosses Florida Monday, goes back into the Gulf of Mexico Tuesday, makes a second landfall in the Panhandle by Thursday, then comes into Georgia next weekend. Widely ranging scenarios, all on the table. And that's what makes this forecast so difficult. A lot of uncertainty that we've got to figure out in the next coming days, but a lot of signs are still pointing that at some point, impacts will come to Georgia. All right, here's what the 10-day forecast looks like. We'll start in middle Georgia, where we've got the low 90s for the next several days. Really, really nice weather tomorrow and Friday. Storm chances go up by this weekend, and next week, a big unknown. All depends on what Dorian does. Similar story for southwest Georgia. Look for the upper 80s and low 90s through the weekend. Better chance of storms next week, and that's all based on the expectation that Dorian will bring some type of weather to southwest Georgia. Stay tuned. We've got more news and weather coming up after this. Welcome back. Current time 10:55. That new information coming in on Hurricane Dorian. A stronger storm tonight in terms of wind, 85 gusting to 105. One of the things we've talked about tonight is that the forecast data has struggled to keep up with Dorian, and there remains a wide range of potential among those models. On this map, every line is a forecast model trying to figure out where this thing's going. And on the other end, 5 days from now, you can see that wide range of potential. The entire Florida East Coast needs to be watching for this, as does the Georgia coast as well. What would help these models come into better agreement? More data. And tonight, the hurricane hunters are collecting that. We are tracking their flight as it happens. There's that maximum wind of 87 miles per hour. They're crisscrossing the storm tonight, collecting data. All of that will go into the forecast models overnight, and that will give us much more of a good idea of what's going to happen over the next day or two. We'll keep an eye on their flight and the storm overnight. Jake Mammon will have the latest starting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Aaron?
Trending tonight, a Louisiana couple was awarded this week for growing the world's largest and heaviest grapefruit. It weighs 7 pounds, 14 ounces, and measured 28 inches in diameter. The Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry awarded Mary Beth and Doug Mayer with a certificate of the accomplishment on behalf of the Guinness Book of World Records.
You choked up.
Got me all choked up. Must be the sourness of it.
I remember growing up, Mom and Dad would eat grapefruits for breakfast on weekends only.
Yeah.
They put some sugar on everything. They don't do that anymore. That's a big one to eat.